record in OBS.
Fantastic.
Look at us doing things.
Making a podcast.
Oh, man. So I was talking with John from Meepletown earlier. He was like, "Do you still enjoy podcasting?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's so much fun." Cuz I don't get sucked into the numbers of it anymore.
Yeah.
Cuz it took me the longest time to get to that point with streaming.
Yeah.
But being able to set this aside as this is a hobby, and if that is what it stays, I am content. And if it becomes more, obviously, I'll be excited about that.
Right.
So,
right. If we continue with our band of merry men of 15 or so, then great. But if we get more than that, that's also really cool.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm like you. I'm here for the ride. I'm here to have fun, and I get to talk about nerdy stuff with an old friend.
Mm-hmm.
All that's missing is a pint.
I have my water bottle,
Oh, yeah, I have mine as well. So
my
it has
responsible hydrating beverage.
lemon water in it.
Oh, you're fancier than me. Mine just has water from the water cooler at work still.
Oh, well, we've had a little bit of a hiccup here in the Crowder house. My wife has COVID,
Oh no. How is she?
and she's fine actually. She's doing really well. She was exposed on, we're guessing, like a Friday, because she started feeling bad on Saturday. It got worse on Sunday, and then Monday she was like pretty miserable. So she went to the doctor, got tested, it came back positive.
No.
And since then has gotten a little bit better every day.
Okay. That's
So she's on the mend. She hasn't gotten any worse, so that's
I'm about
good.
to say that's at some point the first threshold to cross is
Yeah,
stop getting worse, and you're already there. So,
right. So she hasn't gotten any worse. I also haven't gotten any worse. I don't know if I have it. I never got tested. I just kind of assumed I probably have it if she has it.
yeah.
The only thing that I've had is I've been sneezing a lot. So
It's
if I sneeze during the course of this episode, I apologize.
it's a new symptom of the whatever strain that we're on. Sneezing. It's
Must be. I don't
yeah,
know, because
I have no
it's
idea.
it hit me pretty hard. But we got some nose spray today. Uh, uh not a sponsor, but it's just called Clear. I think is how it's pronounced, but it's spelled with an X. So it's XLEAR. It's an all natural nose spray that actually comes from like a grapefruit extract of all
Okay.
things. And I took it today, like this afternoon, and I went probably 5 hours without sneezing
Nice.
and without my nose itching. And I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. So I'm gonna keep using that.
Yeah, for
But
sure. It feels almost like a yawn situation where if someone talks about yawning, you have that intense desire, oh man, now I have to. Like you were talking about your nose, you've been sneezing and it's been itching, and I was just like, dang it.
yeah,
Because I'm just sitting over here oh, my nose itches.
no, it's been awful because this morning it was terrible. I was sneezing and just I was constantly doing this,
I believe it.
where it was just oh man, it was awful. And so it was nice to get some relief. And it hasn't gotten nearly that bad since. So like I said, if I do sneeze, I have a mute button, so hopefully I can press that in time and not blow out everybody's eardrum.
That would be. Man, I really liked this episode. I thought their conversation was really good, but that sneeze, man, it just got me.
Blew my head off.
Right?
Um, but other than that, things are fine. Things are pretty good. It's been kind of just same old here. I don't know. What about you?
Um, yeah, pretty much the same. I have started going to the chiropractor again, so my back feels
Nice.
great.
Yes.
I went earlier today, and I've only been going a couple of weeks, and the chiropractor today was like your movement is really good, which is I guess what you want to hear from a
Yeah,
chiropractor. Like it's good but
for
not too
sure.
good because that's a different problem. But yeah, I went in, I said my back is stiff right here. He was like, "Yeah, it is. I can feel that." And it is no longer stiff right there. No complaints.
Fantastic. Well, good. I'm glad you're. I had never gone to a chiropractor until I guess about roughly a year ago, and it was life changing. I was
Mhm.
like, "This is fantastic. Why have I never done this before?"
Yeah, I don't know. I was in that same boat, so
Yeah. Well, welcome back to another episode of They Didn't Ask Us. I am Jay, and with me, of course, as always, is my lovely co-host,
it's
that
me.
guy
It's
right
me.
there, John.
What's
And
going on, everybody?
so glad to be back for another episode. We are doing a review of a this is our bonus episode, by
Mhm.
the way, for January. And we are doing a review of an old movie from 2009,
Oh, calling a 2009 movie old hurts my soul.
older
I'll take it.
movie, 2009, Watchmen. Now, I was also able to get my hands on a copy of the novel, the graphic novel. So I didn't read the the whole thing because it's 450 pages.
Yeah, it's
So I
it's
didn't read the
hefty.
entire thing, but I kind of skipped through it and like got the main points and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't mine. I borrowed it. So I just kind of
Okay.
looked through it, kept it for a day or two, and then gave it back.
Yeah. So I went. Have you been to the McKays in Nashville, Jay?
Oh
Since they
yes.
moved out to West.
Yes.
Okay. So we went to McKay's probably 2 weeks ago, and I was like, oh, while I'm here, this book is so common and iconic. They'll have one. I can take that. And I went to the comic book section at the top of this. First of all, their parking lot is comically large, right?
It
It is
is.
a comically large parking lot. The day that we
And
went,
it
it
has
was
stone too.
it was 100% full.
Huh.
I've never seen that parking lot 100% full before.
Wow.
And I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is going to be chaos inside this already chaotic store." And I go upstairs after looking at various other things, and I'm like, "Surely there's a copy of Watchmen here." I didn't see a single copy in McKay's.
Hmm.
And I was impressed first, but then I was disappointed because I wanted to get one.
Yeah, that's a shame. Did they
So,
have any other good comics that you were able to pick up while you were there?
oh, what did they have? They had the first two volumes of Captain America Steve Rogers,
Okay.
the controversial one where he has been a Hydra agent his whole life.
Yes.
So I read the first two volumes of that, and I'm upset that they didn't have the third volume because I would have got it too. Um, there was a Kanan comic, Kanan Jarrus, which I feel like I had read before, but I don't know. So I got the first two volumes of that as well.
Okay.
So
Very
pretty
nice.
excited about those.
I've kind of whenever I do comics now, I've actually been doing a lot of the old Star Wars stuff.
So
Like
like Legends.
pre yeah,
Okay.
pre-Disney stuff.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And so like one of the things that I highly recommend is I got my hands on an old copy
Mm.
of so right before um Lucas film was sold to Disney, they made an Obi-Wan comic that showed what Obi-Wan did
Ooh.
before before A New Hope,
That sounds fun.
and it's really good. And no offense to those who enjoyed the show, but better than the show.
I don't like. I had actually had a conversation with somebody about this at dinner tonight. I don't feel like that's offensive. Like, as someone who enjoys the show, I have no problem with that because the show is good, but it's good because of the investment I already had into it.
Okay, yeah,
So,
that makes sense.
understanding that this comic exists and is, I would expect it to be better. Like, that's very exciting.
So
I
yeah,
might have to reach out for that
highly
somewhere.
recommend searching for that somewhere and enjoying that. It's very good.
Yeah,
But yeah, well, cool. All right, so we've had some pretty eventful weeks.
yeah,
Um, so up first, we usually do news. Unfortunately, so John and I, we usually have an outline, um, and I was not prepared this time, and I did not do an outline. But I do have some news sources that I can pull up and go through to kind of get the conversation going. I
yeah.
did want to ask you this. So I saw this on Twitter. And so when I see something, it's not necessarily that I want to like it exactly,
Mm-hmm.
but I do so that I can go back and look at it later.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's completely
But
fair.
somebody put out a list,
Oh no.
a Star Wars ranking of the top 10 most powerful Jedi.
I feel like this is going to be very upsetting.
So let's just without looking at the list, okay? Who would you say in your mind, okay? You're a pretty avid Star Wars fan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who would you put as number 1?
Is it all eras or just Skywalker Saga?
The Skywalker saga.
Okay. Because I was like, well, I mean, Revan has to be in there, but Skywalker Saga, he is not. Um, I've heard there's a common theory that Obi-Wan is actually number one. He's a lot of people's vote as the most powerful Jedi. For me, I would honestly say Mace Windu
Okay.
as number one most powerful.
Do you have any reasoning for that? Like what was your
Um, because he he flirted with the line of the dark side most commonly,
Yeah.
to the point that he invented an entire form of lightsaber combat to adapt that proclivity to just like knowing what he's capable of. Um, I would probably say Yoda too.
I would definitely have Yoda up there. I don't know if I would have Yoda at the top, but I would definitely have Yoda up there. I think I might put Luke at the top. Maybe Anakin?
Uh, mm, I think Anakin's peak is after he turns, though.
Mm,
I think so. That's part of it for me. Is like, think of this like, so we're
the whole
recording this.
story.
Yeah. Well, we're recording this in January. Think about this like a March Madness style bracket.
Okay,
Like
yeah.
if they had to 1v1 and the winner moved
Okay.
on, I feel like
Okay.
a lot of people could beat Luke. But that's also, 30 years of choreography advancement
Right.
if you look at it from that perspective. So, I think so I said Mace, Yoda. I will say Obi-Wan third. Um gosh. And I'm so biased towards lightsaber combat because it's the most fun to watch.
Yeah.
But I mean, Anakin as a duelist and as a pilot, I feel like would be up there. But I want to put Qui-Gon higher than Anakin, just because he made master status and Anakin never did.
That's true.
So that implies some more like he's more in tune with everything. Um,
So number 1 though, you say Mace Windu.
I do, yeah.
Number 1, I want to say Luke. But I do like your idea of Obi-Wan being number 1.
Yeah.
mainly because it's in his name.
Yeah, that's true. Number one
Obi-Wan,
Kenobi
number one Kenobi.
and his brother number 2 Kenobi.
Okay, so I'm gonna read you just the top 5
Oh, I'm
that this person did.
if Ray is in this list at all, I'm gonna be upset.
Number 1, Yoda.
Fair.
Number 2, Luke Skywalker.
I can't really argue it.
Number 3, Ray.
Shut it down. It's a stupid list. If you again with the context of if they had to 1v1 to advance, there's not a single timeline that Ray could 1v1 Mace Windu. It couldn't happen.
Yeah. No, I agree. And then they have number 4, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and number 5, Mace Windu.
Gosh, that's so ugh. No. Just no. It's wrong.
I agree. I agree. Ray shouldn't even be on the top 10.
I mean top 10 maybe like 10.
Maybe.
And even then that I feel like that comes down to how many of the Clone Wars era masters do you actually know a lot about?
Right? Yeah, no, I agree with you completely.
Where do you so I guess she is technically considered Skywalker Saga since she was in Rise of Skywalker. Where would you put Ahsoka? Or does it become like my argument with Anakin, her peak is after she leaves the order?
I don't know though. She was pretty high up there cuz she went toe to toe. Well, I guess that was after
Mm-hmm.
she went toe to toe with Maul, but that
Mm-hmm.
was after she left the order. So yeah, I think you're right. Like she got stronger once she left.
Yeah. There's a somewhat common thought that she became a gray Jedi,
Yeah.
which is just, in a world of black and white, she became gray. It's a very simple theory in concept, but it's a little bit more difficult to understand. So I guess it becomes, does that count? Where's Kanan? Where's Ezra?
Hmm.
Because I don't know that I would put Ezra top 10, but I would probably put Kanan like
I
eighth.
put him up there.
Yeah. And again, his voice was in Rise of Skywalker, which makes him canon.
But yeah, Ahsoka, I mean, I would definitely put up there if we're counting that. I put her. Oh man, this is a hard list.
Yeah. Yeah,
This
no,
is
I
something I'm really gonna have to sit down and
I
think
I
about.
made this deceptively difficult.
Like maybe when Ahsoka comes out, like
Oh, that would be fun.
we might have to do like a top 10 Jedi
That
list,
would be yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
or at
Do
least like a top 5.
do we have a date for that yet?
I don't think they've just said later this year, I
Come
believe.
on, man.
I know they did the same thing. So that was the other thing I was going to mention is they released I, I use the term trailer loosely, but they released an Invincible trailer, the animated superhero show on Amazon,
Hmm.
which is really good, by the way, if you haven't watched it. Not for kids, not for kids. I just want to put that out there. But it
Oh my
is
gosh.
on Amazon. I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. And but they released a trailer and they said the exact same thing. They were like, yeah, it's going to be like later 2023.
Come on,
And you're
man.
like, that doesn't really give us much. Like that could honestly, it could be the last week of December. Like,
I feel like if someone were to say something's going to come out late 2023 here in January, I feel like my personal window for that is anywhere from like September to March of 2024.
I agree with you there.
So I need a date, man. I need it.
Speaking of trailers, we're getting another Shazam trailer at the time of this recording tomorrow.
Nice. I
So,
still haven't seen the first movie or Black Adam. I feel
yeah.
like at some point they have to be related.
Ah,
Like they have to tie together with the characters of Shazam and Black Adam.
I
It
mean,
is
you would think.
borderline essential.
You would think. So, big news that came out here recently. John, did you ever watch Rick and Morty?
I've dabbled.
Okay.
I see it when I scroll through like reels and stuff. Like if I'm just scrolling on Facebook videos, I'll see like compilations of scenes and stuff. The bigger thing for me with the controversy I know you're about to talk about is they just released a game called High on Life where the creator like the you play with like sentient alien firearms
Yes.
and the main one is Morty. Like
Yeah.
it is Morty's voice.
Right.
So,
So, yeah, but the creator or co-creator of co-creator of Rick and Morty, Justin Roland, he has been fired because of felony domestic violence charges.
wasn't there was a second charge too? It was like domestic violence and like unlawful kidnapping or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but
Not great.
dang.
Yeah. Rick and Morty, I did
So
see that they released a statement saying they will continue.
I saw
They're just
that.
not 100% sure what it's going to look like yet. Um,
I mean, there's plenty of people that do impressions of both of those
oh,
characters, so I know they can find somebody.
yeah.
Um, by the way, that's another show and game that we
Not
mentioned
for
that
kids.
is not for kids.
Not at all.
Please
No.
do not show that to your kids.
Oh my gosh.
DCS will immediately show up at your
Uh,
door.
and then probably watch it with your kids, but then they'll
Oh
my so
man, what
my
a world.
when I started my new job last year, my boss was like, "Hey, do you watch Rick and Morty?" And I was like, "Sometimes." And he was like, "Pickle Rick is the funniest thing I've ever seen." And I was like, "Man, you got to get out more. Like it's good,
There
but it's not like Airplane. Like Airplane is probably the funniest thing I've ever seen."
you go.
But he'll no, Pickle.
Surely you can't be serious.
Of course, I'm serious. Don't call me Shirley. It's such a great movie. Like, also not
It
for
is a
kids,
good
but
movie.
it's also not animated. Um, have you talking of going back to Star Wars and needing dates for things? We're like a month out from Mandalorian season 3,
We are.
March
Yes.
1st. Did you watch that new trailer? I
Yes.
say new, it came out like a week ago.
Yeah, I saw it.
I did something I never do with the Mandalorian season 3 trailer, and I watched a YouTube video breakdown
Oh,
of
wow.
one of
That's
those
how
like all those things that you missed in the new Mandalorian trailer.
I just want everybody to realize that that's how excited John is for this season.
I never do that. And I was like, there are enough things that I know I missed in this. And I was paying attention. And then I watched the video and it was all the things that I noticed. And I was like, dang it. Either this
Nothing
video
new.
either this video is bad or I was very much involved. So probably a mix of
Yeah,
both. But
either this video is awful or I'm that good.
it's somewhere in the middle. I tend not to give myself too much credit.
Oh man. Well, as far as news goes, that's probably some of the biggest. We haven't really had a whole lot happen here recently. Um, I know that they're currently looking for a new Superman and various other people. As far as I know, they're sticking with the Flash. Ezra Miller as the Flash, from what I can
Bruh.
tell. I don't know why.
They've got to just be doing that until the movie comes out. Like they've
I would think so.
put too much into
All
this movie to can it, and if they go into the movie saying we have a new Flash before the movie even comes out, no one's gonna care.
right. Which
No one cares anyway.
do they care anyway?
No,
That's the question. Is it really that much of a loss?
I
Probably
mean,
not.
I'll see it because isn't it Flashpoint supposedly
Yeah,
or
supposedly.
like
And yeah, I
Flashpoint
mean that
esque?
makes me excited too, but at the same time, I can't I have a hard time looking past. It's one thing. It's kind of funny. We've actually talked about this before. Like anytime allegations are raised against a celebrity, like I think the one that I brought up was Kevin Spacey. Kevin
Oh,
Spacey was blamed or accused of doing some shady stuff at one point, and people were just taking it as truth without there being any kind of like investigation or court case or anything. And so I remember saying at that time, like, I didn't believe that he did anything until we actually got some proof. But then once we got the proof, it was like, okay, he's a pretty bad dude.
yeah.
But Ezra Miller, not only did he do something that was very, very, very shady, but also he
He
admitted to it.
and he kept doing things
Yeah, he
as
pled
part
he
of it
pled
too.
guilty.
Yeah.
So
And then
like,
he would do more things, and it's just like, what are we doing?
yeah, so I don't know. So because of that, I have a hard time saying that I'm gonna watch it just because I don't know. It becomes a moral issue. And I don't like that.
Yeah. 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 I
So,
I've
but
I don't know.
at the same time, I am not gonna judge somebody if you go watch it. If you want to go watch it, that's your business. I just know how I feel about it. So,
Yeah.
but man, that was heavy. Let's talk about something a little
Let's talk about something light like Watchmen. Known mood booster, Watchmen.
definitely not something brighter.
I mean, Dr. Manhattan. Just
Zack Snyder only makes movies after a power outage.
that shouldn't be funny. Cuz like 300 was made before this, right? It was like
Yes,
2006.
actually, I I did my research on this movie. So this movie was actually proposed 3 different times by 3 different studios before it landed at Warner Brothers with Zack Snyder. And the only reason they got Zack Snyder was because he had just had the huge success with 300. So it was originally proposed in the late 90s
Oh my gosh.
by Fox. And then, yeah, right.
I'm glad Fox
And
didn't get it.
then,
It would have been horrible.
yes. And then it was proposed, or then it was picked up by Warner Brothers in 2003, I believe it was. And the guy that they got for it, I can't even remember who it was. He he wanted to do a series. He wanted to do a mini series instead of doing a 2.5 hour movie. And then finally in 2009, they brought up the idea again and uh, asked Zack Snyder if he would do it, and he said yes. So there you go.
Cool. So we
The
have
history of how,
300 to thank for Watchmen.
yes.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Two works by iconic graphic novelists, with Watchmen being written by Alan Moore and 300 being written by Frank Miller, I'm pretty sure. Let me let
Makes
me use the
sense.
old Wikipedia that I have open to verify that.
I mean, that would make sense considering that it's very dark
Yep,
and um,
based on
feels
the
very Batman or Daredevil esque.
very Dark Knight Returnsy.
Yes.
300 is 2006 epic historical action film based on the 1998 comic series of the same name by Frank Miller and Lynn Varley. So yeah,
There you go. So, almost said 300. Watchmen,
so ordinarily
2009.
I was going to say, ordinarily, this is the time of the pod where I would read a plot summary, but this movie is 2 hours and 45 minutes long. I'm not doing that.
Well, not only that, but the
It's
plot is
intricate.
so all over the place.
Yeah.
It's hard to give a summary.
So I will say I found one not in the plot section of Wikipedia, but above it when it's kind of like the if you don't read the rest of this article, you will understand it. You know how Wikipedia has that bit at the very top.
Mhm.
One sentence, and I love it.
What does it say?
It says a dark and dystopian deconstruction of the superhero genre. The film is set in an alternate history in the year 1985 at the height of the
There you go.
Cold War as a group of mostly retired American superheroes investigates the murder of one of their own before uncovering an elaborate and deadly conspiracy, while their moral limitations are challenged by the complex nature of the circumstances. I love that.
That's to the point.
That is a one sentence summary of this movie.
That's good.
And yeah, that is see y'all next week. Like
Yeah, I like the way that they said deconstruction.
it's almost like a satire of comic book. Like if this came out now, I feel like it would be so much better received because there's so much like superhero burnout that most people have. I mean, I'm not to that point yet. You may be. I mean, I don't know. We've been talking about superhero stuff coming out every week for the past like decade.
That's true.
So,
Yeah, no, I think so. This is very. I mean, it asks the question: what would happen if you had everyday people become superheroes? And I think this movie really it well, actually it asks several questions, to be honest. It asks that question, like how would somebody react if or how would a normal person react to being a superhero?
mhm,
It also asks the question, what would happen to a man that becomes a god?
yeah,
And it also kind of asks the question, what happens to a man when their main purpose in life is taken away?
that Rorschach.
Him and the comedian both.
Okay. I think the so is there a single character in this movie that you think is like objectively good? To get into talking about the movie now.
I don't know.
I don't think
That's a
so.
hard question. I don't because at the same time, I don't know if any of them are exactly
Meant to be.
objectively bad either.
I I would argue the comedian becomes objectively bad.
Okay, but that wasn't his original purpose though.
No, none
No.
of none of their original purposes were to be bad, but
No, and I think that's what I mean, that's definitely what they explore, and then also they come to realize too at the end. By the way, this is another movie that is not for kids.
oh no, it's exceptionally rated R
Yes, very
for
much.
just like the most unnecessary graphic violence,
Yes.
amongst other things. Like there's two sex scenes and an abundance of nudity.
Yes.
Freaking Dr. Manhattan. Golly.
Dr. Manhattan has
He's just hanging brain like the whole movie.
he's on strike against clothing.
Yeah. That's yeah.
Um but yeah, I don't know. Let's see, what was the question you asked?
Is anyone objectively good?
Yeah, I not really.
The closest one to me is Night Owl. Dan Dryberg,
Yeah,
played by Patrick Wilson,
Patrick Wilson.
who I would like to soapbox here real quick. We don't appreciate Patrick Wilson enough.
I agree.
So I recently comic book people will know him as Orm from Aquaman, and he was very good. He plays a very good villain. Um, but he was in the Phantom of the Opera movie and did his
I
own
never saw
singing.
that.
Like he's a
Really?
classically trained singer.
Wow.
and he's good.
That's impressive.
He
Why
was
didn't he sing in this? Would
just
that not have fit with
imagining.
the tone?
Oh, it. See, I'm upset because it absolutely wouldn't have, but it 100% would. Like, if there was just like they burst out into song in some random moment of this movie, it's enough of a satire of the genre. I feel like they could get away with it.
Like right after the scene of him and um Sally in the ship,
Mm-hmm.
and then like they break out into song and dance
Oh my
afterwards.
gosh, that would have been horrible but amazing at the same time. Gosh, that would have been. Oh man, we need to find a way to make Watchmen, but as a satire of superhero movies. Actually, I made a joke about that. I was talking about it with people earlier tonight. I was like, if they made Watchmen now, I feel like they would just have to have a running gag of every time Dr. Manhattan is on the screen, his nudity just becomes a little bit bigger every single scene progressing throughout the movie. And at the
Like
end,
he
it is like
he
comically large. And the whole bit is he does not notice it at all. He's just deadpan. And no one talks about it.
nobody brings attention to it. Like he starts out in like a full suit with like a turtleneck, and then like it just slowly starts like every scene.
Oh no,
Is that what
no.
you mean?
No, I mean just his what is nude.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
how we've never had to cross the bridge of how we refer to that on this show before. But his full frontal male nudity. If it
Gotcha.
just like,
Gotcha.
have you seen on Twitter where it's like for every 100 likes we're gonna make this
Oh
person's hat bigger?
right,
It's like one
right.
of those
Okay.
where it's
I
like
gotcha.
every frame of this movie it's gonna get just like a little bit bigger. And then at the end of the movie, it's like,
Oh,
here's Earth, and then here's Dr. Manhattan.
oh my gosh.
But no one mentions it at all. Everyone just accepts it as true.
Oh, that's great. Oh man. Like I'm what a great comedy. Like that would just be fantastic. It's kind of like the although they brought attention to it, but it's kind of like in the other guys where Will Ferrell's gun keeps coming back, and it's like it starts out as a wooden gun, but it gets nicer and nicer as it comes back to him.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of style, but
Gosh, underrated movie, The Other Guys.
oh man, how that movie started, just like
Sets the
I
tone.
did. I didn't know how to process it. I was like, what just happened?
Oh man.
Oh wow. Okay.
Anyway, Watchmen.
Um
Um,
yeah, Watchmen. It is we are setting at a very different tone than what this movie
oh,
is.
it's so dark and so serious
So dark.
all the
If you've
time.
the thing that can be compared to it that's newer is if you've seen The Boys at all on Amazon, it's
Mm,
it's basically that.
except with a different
Except
color
that
palette.
yes. Yes, and also The Boys is probably worse as far as like
I would expect it to be.
content and
Yeah.
like even like I watched the newest season. What I ended up doing because it was bothering me so much what was happening in it is whenever something was about to happen, I would watch it on my laptop and I would have my finger on the arrow, and every time something would happen, I would skip like 30 seconds,
Okay.
and usually it would be over whatever was about to happen.
Except for that one whole episode.
Yes. Well, what I was going to say was is at the beginning of that episode, they're like there's a warning before the episode that's like, "Hey, this is about to happen."
This whole episode is gross and disgusting.
And they were like, "Just know that this is all fake and you don't need to be upset about it. And there's going to be some scenes that are definitely not appropriate for
Anyone?
younger audiences." And then they said, "To be honest, it's not appropriate for anybody."
Yeah. I respect that level of self awareness.
So, uh, anyway, it's in that same. If you were to have superhero movies in a filing cabinet, you would put those under the same tab.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
But this movie is. So I was thinking back to, so while I was rewatching this, so how I did this was I got the copy of the graphic novel and I read the graphic novel. Once again, not in its entirety, but you know, I got the gist of what was happening. And then I watched the movie. And while I was watching the movie, I started thinking back to when I first saw this in 2009. And um, side note, what a weird night thinking back to that movie because I went with two very, very good friends of mine. They were actually groomsmen in my wedding. And we went to go see this movie. And, typically when you go to a movie, I don't know what you do, but I like to break the rules and I sneak stuff in to the movie.
Never.
I know.
I will say no. I
So
don't. I don't do that anymore.
I snuck in a drink and I also snuck in, it was some candy. I don't know. I'm not really sure. And I snuck it in and we sat in, I think it was like I think we were in the first row actually, but not
Oh.
like the first row, like right in front of the screen, like the first row, like where the carpeted area is,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so we were sitting there and we're watching the movie and I enjoyed my drink. I enjoyed my candy and I was done with it. And I actually got up and threw it away before, we even left.
Like during the middle of the movie.
During the middle
Oh
of the
my
movie. I sure
gosh.
did.
That's hilarious.
and uh and so I'm sitting there watching it and somebody before me, I guess, two seats down had brought a drink as well, but they left the bottle in the cup holder. And so I didn't think anything of it. I didn't do anything with it, but I'm watching the movie and all of a sudden I feel like there's something down on the floor, like in my field of vision, like down to the bottom left corner of my field of vision.
I don't like
And I'm like,
this.
what is that? And I look and it's a person crouched down looking at me
Nope. Nope.
and
Nope.
had
Nope.
on a full, like, had on, it was the manager of the movie theater. He had
Oh.
his little badge on
Oh. Okay.
and he goes, what are you doing? And I was like, watching the movie. And he was like, did you bring a purse with you? And I was like, no, no, I didn't bring a purse. And he was like, you're not, he was like, you don't have a purse on you. And I was like, no, I don't have a purse on me. I don't carry a purse. I was like, do I look like somebody that would carry a purse? And then, and then he looked at me and he was like, there's supposed to be no food or drink from outside in here. And I was like, I don't have anything. And then he grabbed the bottle and was like, well, then what's this? And I was like, I don't know, dude. It was there when I got here. And he was like, I'm watching you. And then he left. And that was it.
You give people just the tiniest amount of power,
It was
and they
crazy. I
just.
was like, what is happening right now?
You know what? I'm gonna say something controversial here on a comic book centric podcast. I hope that guy never gets superpowers.
Right?
Because
You
with
would
great
abuse it for
power
sure.
comes great responsibility, and man, he had little power and he showed little responsibility.
Yeah. So that kind of starts off like how this movie went for me. But I remember in 2009 watching this movie and being just hating it so much. I didn't like it. And
Yeah.
so I'm rewatching it and I'm like, I'm not hating this, but compared to the graphic novel, I'm definitely not enjoying this. And
Really?
and the one thing I kept thinking was this would have done so much better as a TV show. Why didn't they do it as a
Yeah.
TV show?
That wasn't really. on the radar yet in 2009.
It really wasn't, which so now it makes sense on why they did it, but then also I started thinking back to the movies that were coming out during that time, the superhero movies.
I mean, two of the
Up
best, right?
until
Or at least
this
the most
point,
iconic.
well, up until 2009 when this movie came out, superhero movies were they were light, they were funny, they were colorful, and they had a good ending. This one does
I
not.
mean, with I would argue with one notable exception is The Dark Knight.
That's true, but even that one had a good ending.
It has a good ending, but it doesn't have a well. It has a satisfying ending. It doesn't have a sunshine and rainbows ending.
Well, no, no.
And to this point, to your point, most mainstream superhero movies of that era did.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at like the X-Men movies, by and large, sunshine and rainbow endings. The Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, sunshine and rainbow endings. Iron Man had just come out, good ending. Um, I mean, what else really was there at that point?
So for me, that's what it dawned on me that that's what it was that was different. Was this was really the first one that I can remember that it was very dark, it was very gory, it
Mm-hmm.
was very it was just not your classic superhero movie.
Yeah.
Also, one of the big differences that actually bothered me a lot, I wish that they had stuck more to the comic with this. In the comic, nobody actually has superpowers.
Not even Dr. Manhattan.
Dr. Manhattan is the only one. Everybody else is just people in costumes.
Is that not how they actually were?
They're a lot stronger than a normal person would be. And they have like really good fighting skills,
Yeah, I guess that's true.
and like they're like they act more like superheroes, whereas in the
Oh,
comic they really were just people in costumes
okay.
that were patrolling the city.
Okay. I suppose that's fair. Cause Ozymandias had the he looked deceptively agile in
Yes.
a lot of his fight scenes. So, um, do we? Let me pull the Wikipedia back up. Do we want to do brief character, who they are, what they do, or
Hmm.
because I feel like we're just gonna refer to people without much like here are the main people and then kind of what happens.
Yeah, we can just stick with, I mean, we don't necessarily have to go through everybody piece by piece.
Okay. So did you so just jumping into like character observations now, did you think Rorschach sounded like John Bernthal's Punisher
Yes.
the entire movie? Like I looked it up multiple times just to make sure. I was like, John Bernthal wasn't Rorschach, was he? No, he wasn't.
No.
But it's the same voice. And it's weird hearing that voice and in my head visualizing John Bernthal. And then when Rorschach is captured and he's unmasked, seeing that person and think like
Didn't
equating it with the
fit, did it?
Punisher, I was just like, no, that's not. He looks like the
Yeah.
Mad Hatter. Like,
Yeah, you're like, he's got red hair.
yeah, golly, oh, Rorschach.
What a
I
messed up character.
I want to like Rorschach so much, but
I
I
loved his
can't.
costume.
His mask is so cool.
I really like his mask and his costume he's got going on. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, I will 100% agree with that. For those of you who may be unfamiliar or haven't seen or read anything about Watchmen yet, Rorschach gets his name from the Rorschach inkblot tests, and his mask changes like based on his mood. It's like if your mood ring was a face,
Yeah, basically.
and like that was done super super well. I feel like.
And his character is just so messed up.
Yep.
Like he's got some major problems.
Yep.
He's beating up and practically killing innocent people. And he
Are
kills. Doesn't he shoot? No,
are there
is it the
innocent people in
comedian that
this?
shoots the pregnant woman?
Oh, it's 100% the comedian. Yeah, in
Okay, yeah,
Vietnam.
yeah,
Yeah, it's 100%. Because she was gonna like attack him with a bottle or something, and he was just like, I don't care. I'm Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Blah blah blah.
yeah,
Which he was really good in this, and for me, my only previous exposure to him had been Negan in The Walking Dead, which
right.
obviously had not happened yet in 2009. He's a very enjoyable actor, even if his roles are very unenjoyable people.
He is, and then not only that, but he's also going to be in The Boys.
Of course, he is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. At this point, I'm really upset that Jensen Ackles is in The Boys because I'm sure he's doing really, really good in it, but that means that he can't be anything for DC.
Yeah,
And DC wouldn't like if he was. So he was the voice of Jason Todd in Under the Red Hood, but I would love Jensen Ackles as like the new DC Batman.
yeah, that'd be great.
I would be
Well,
100% on board.
he's voicing him at least.
Yeah, but the continuity of if the voice was the actor
Yeah,
would be really fun.
I gotcha. Um, so was there any character in particular that you enjoyed?
Night Owl, the Patrick Wilson character,
Yeah,
because I feel like he's the most everyman of all of them.
yeah,
Just because kind of like Batman or like Iron Man, his superpower is he's just really rich. And I feel like he's the most even keeled. He's the voice of reason in a lot of these situations, but he's also like he's enough of a follower too that you're just like, oh, he's not just like the straight man character, where he's like, no, we have to be, to take the tagline from your guy, truth, justice, and the American way. He's just like, we're just kind of someone says this is what we're doing, so this is what we're doing.
yeah.
Like Rorschach talks him into like guilts him into stuff very easily.
Oh yeah.
So it's like as a person, that's probably not great, but as a character, he's very interesting.
I like the question that it makes you ponder, which is it true that the only way to bring people together is to have a common enemy? Or to bring countries together, to bring
Yeah,
the world together? Because that's basically the big problem that becomes is these heroes are trying to unite the world,
yeah,
and they figure out that really the only way to unite the world is to cause an outside problem, and so everybody has to work together to try to destroy this other problem. And so they set something up to make it look like Dr. Manhattan is that bigger problem.
so the end of this movie comes up in a list. So I am kind of ashamed to say it, but I watch a lot of those videos where it's like, the top 5 or the top 10 um ending or like unexpected endings of movies or like those styles of video. And the end of Watchmen is commonly on them because so Ozymandias, it is revealed, is behind all of the nefarious activities, having betrayed his former superhero cohort. And Night Owl and Rorschach go down to his base in Antarctica, and he explains his whole plan. He's like, "You figured it out, blah blah blah." He goes, A to Z. This is the entire thing. And then Night Owl is like, "Okay, well, Rorschach, we can stop him." And Ozymandias is just like, "No, you can't." Because he said it in the movie. He goes, "I'm not a comic book villain," which is so meta, and I love it.
Mhm.
He goes, "I'm not a comic book villain. I started this 35 minutes ago. I already did it. It's over. You lost." And it's just like, oh. that thing that the actual villain would do. Because I'm used to like Sean Connery era James Bond villain explanations. When he's like, "Oh no, I'm trapped, but you'll tell me your whole plan because I can't escape," and then he
Yeah, while he
escapes.
pets his cat.
Yeah. So as a subversion of the genre, it's a very enjoyable movie conceptually. I have a pretty high bar for like where I think graphic violence starts and ends. Um, this movie though, there's a lot.
Hmm.
There is a lot, and I don't know that I like it.
Yeah, it's almost, in some ways, it's almost too much. Um, Although I know for that time, that was probably some of the most extreme that people have ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
But now you've got things that are competing with it that are like,
Like The
oh no,
Boys.
we can make it so
Yeah.
much worse.
Oh, The Boys.
And it's like, no, you don't have to.
Yeah. No, no one asked you to do this.
No, nobody. Yeah, exactly.
So with your perspective of comparing to the book itself, other than everyone is much more straightforwardly unpowered, what were some of your other compares and contrasts?
There's just more detail that goes into each character. So you have more of a background for each character. And that's when you start to realize that none of them are exactly good, but none of them are also bad. Like they're all,
100% evil.
yeah. So they're each like, even at the end where they're like, oh, we're doing this evil thing, they're doing this evil thing because it's going to be better for humanity.
It's greatest good for the greatest number. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the only,
Oh man, it's the trolley problem.
yeah,
Oh man, I love the trolley problem so much.
yeah. So it's like, do you run over everybody to save the one, or do you run over the one to save the larger number?
Mm-hmm.
Um
Gosh, it's so
and
troubling. There's no right answer.
it, it is,
Ugh.
but it's I love the video somebody did with their like 3-year-old, and they like set it up for him, and they were like, what would you do? And
Just knocked the trolley over.
he picks up the one and puts it with the rest of the group, and then uses the trolley to run over everybody.
No, no, that's no.
And it's
Oh
like, well,
man,
he's 3. He's not going to understand that, but
right.
it was really funny.
But at the same time, that's one of those like it gets written down into like the scrapbook that the mom shows off at that kid's high school graduation.
That's right. Yeah.
And you remember 15 years ago, we were very concerned.
You killed everybody.
You looked at the trolley problem and you said, "What if I made it worse?" Golly.
But yeah, so
Uh,
the novel looks more at that, each individual character. And then you get more of a background into Dr. Manhattan and why he does some of the things that he does. Um, and then also the ending is different too. It's not a bomb. I mean, it really doesn't change the story at all. Instead of it being a bomb, it's like a giant squid
ah,
attacks the Manhattan or whatever.
I don't care for that.
Yeah, it was, but at the same time, it also explodes at one point. So I mean, it doesn't really change the story at all. Uh,
Exploding squid that could level cities is like no thank you.
yeah.
I don't care. I
And
don't care
so,
for that at
like I
all.
said, it's one of those things where it didn't really change all that much. But it was interesting because I was mainly thinking, man, I wish they had fleshed that out more, and this would have done great as a series. And so that was kind of my complaint. I kind of see why so many people complained about the movie. But then I rewatched it again just at alone. I took it away. I took away the book, and I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to consider the book. I'm just going to watch it for what it is.
Yeah.
And for what it is, it's a pretty good movie. I
Yeah,
mean, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's
it's not.
better than Rise of Skywalker.
It is not even in the conversation of worst comic book movie I've ever seen.
No.
It's not close. Speaking of actually two movies that are in that conversation, um, I saw recently that Love and Thunder's Rotten Tomato score has dropped below The Dark Worlds.
Whoa.
So I will confirm that probably once we're done recording, because if I open a new tab, it's gonna destroy my retinas. Um, but I read that and I was like, good, good. More people must hate this movie too.
I like the memes that everybody's doing with Glass Onion, where he's like, it's so dumb, and then she's like, it's so dumb, it's brilliant. And he's like, no, it's just dumb. And they've done that, and over her face they put Thor Love and Thunder.
Oh, oh, I love it. I feel like you could do that with like
A lot.
not the first Thor, but you could make that meme of the last three Thor movies of like, it's dumb, like the Dark World, and then Ragnarok. It's so dumb, it's brilliant, and then Love and Thunder is like, no, it's just dumb. Because like Ragnarok is really really good, but it almost wasn't. I expect
it,
like
it
that
was
is
close to not being good.
I don't
The ending of that movie is what saved that movie.
yes 100%. I don't mean to make a very bad Thor joke, but I'm gonna make it now that I thought of it. It's lightning in a bottle. It is a commonly accepted metaphor, but also it's a Thor joke.
Yes.
So
So
anyway,
pun not intended, but
back
it
to
works.
the movie that we were talking about. Um, I didn't expect to like this movie. I remember
Was
watching
this
it
your first time?
ish, and I'll tell you why I
Okay.
said ish. I feel like I didn't watch this when it came out because I would have been like 17, and R-rated movie, like, I don't know that I would have been able to get in. I was very straight laced as a child. I know that will shock everyone who's listening to this. I think by and large the only rule I did not follow was probably speed limits because they're myths. Um, legally that's a joke.
Conspiracy theory.
Any and all potential law enforcement in my geographic area, I follow speed limits 100%. If you're listening to this on audio, um, but so I didn't go in and watch a lot of R-rated movies in the theater, but in the years after it came out, I feel like I caught most of it on television one time, which
Huh.
is a wildly different viewing experience.
What would that have, like, TNT?
Probably, or like
That's the only thing I
FX.
could think. FX. That
FX
makes
probably would have
sense.
shown it.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. So it really was kind of your first time.
Pretty much, yeah.
Huh.
Because it's like I was familiar with it. Like I'm familiar enough with the plot of Watchmen that I could try to explain it to people and ultimately fail because it's Watchmen. I feel like you could know this and still have trouble explaining it to people. Um, but I would call this my first time truly watching it.
So on a scale of one to on a sca-
I'm
on a
excited for
scale
this.
of one to full frontal Dr. Manhattan.
What kind of scale is that?
I don't know.
How, how many new Dr. Manhattan clones do you give Watchmen out of 10? Because that's a power he has. He could just duplicate himself endlessly.
That's right. That's right. He
Um,
does.
golly, oh man, I honestly, it's a solid 8 for me. I can't
I would
really go too much higher than that, but I would feel bad going lower than that.
I would put it at considering when it came out, putting it back in its time slot, 2009, I'm going to put it at a 7.
I think that's fair.
Because I think if you saw it today for the first time and you've seen everything else that has been released as far as related to any kind of superhero genre, I don't think you're gonna like it as much.
I would almost argue the opposite of that. I would think you might appreciate it more
Appreciate it
because
more.
it subverts the genre so aggressively.
That's true. That's true. It's a superhero deconstructive
Like if you say, "Oh,
deconstruction.
I want to watch a superhero movie. Let's watch Watchmen." And your previous experience is by and large just MCU stuff. Every time you
Spider-Man
expect,
No Way Home.
oh goodness. Every time you expect you know what's going to happen in a movie, in this movie, you will be wrong
Yeah,
because they flirt with the line of good and evil so aggressively, start
that's
to
true.
finish.
Yeah.
So I had this conversation about Hot Rod earlier. If Hot Rod was released today, it would be a modern comedy classic, and you cannot convince me otherwise. If this movie was released today, I feel like it would have a much different public reception. Like,
This is this movie is, they made the Watchmen series on HBO,
mm-hmm,
and I thought for sure it was going to be a remake of the movie, and it was just going to be more like the comic and be fleshed out.
mm-hmm.
And that's not what happened at all.
No,
It was a sequel to the comic, I believe.
I thought it was a prequel.
Or was it a prequel?
I
I
thought it
don't know
came
what it is.
before.
Whatever it is, I think it's not what everybody wanted from what I've been told.
I've been told it's really good though.
Oh,
It's
see,
just
I've heard,
unexpected.
yeah. So I feel like this is something that, like, if I feel like this is something that could probably remake, but remake it into a series.
I would almost want to wait a little bit longer just because 2009 to now is in that weird mix of it feels like a long time, but it's also not
Yeah.
because by setting the movie in 1985, it doesn't aggressively date itself. It functions as this movie takes place in the 80s. It will look like it takes place in the 80s forever. Whereas
Hmm.
if it had been like, we're going to have this set in 2005 at the height of the war on terror, then it would become much more a product of its time. And
Mm.
I feel like it holds up better than I expected it to.
Mm. Well, anyway, check it out for yourself.
Yeah, I
Um,
do recommend it, which I don't know that I expected to.
yeah, I recommend it, and I recommend actually reading the book too. In fact, I really want to go ahead and read the whole thing, not just the basically the Cliff Notes version that I did.
The, the Cliff's
Um,
Notes version, but it's just a family circus from the Sunday morning comic section.
yeah. So, but I recommend it. You may not. If you don't, let us know. Um, I hope we did it justice. I hope we uh, talked about it enough. I know we had a listener who suggested this, so I hope you enjoyed it. But yeah, you can, as far as getting in touch with us to let us know what you think, and please do, because I know this is, especially for our older listeners, that I know this is probably something that you watched maybe when it came out and you can remember vividly going to see it. What were your thoughts on it? your initial thoughts, because I know your opinions change about stuff over time. That's not unusual at all. So I would love to hear from somebody to see like rewatching it, like what are your thoughts now versus what they were when you originally saw it? Because I know mine have changed. Because when I originally saw it, I hated it. I thought it
Yeah.
was terrible. But rewatching it now, I'm like, this is actually not too bad. This is pretty fun. I like it. It's different.
Exceptionally different. Again,
So
if you do decide to watch this, please, do you have the content warning available? Just the actual verbatim, because I know it's graphic violence, language, sexual content, but I don't know if I don't want to miss something.
I had the IMDb page up, so I will.
I don't think like there's drinking, but I don't know that there's like excessive drug use that would warrant an R. Like it's not R rated because of drugs. There might be
No,
drugs present. I know people smoke like
rated R
cigars.
for strong graphic violence. Yes,
Yes.
sexuality, nudity, and language.
Okay, and sexuality and nudity. I'd lump them together because that's why the nudity is there is the sexuality. Well, and
Yeah.
Dr. Manhattan just hanging out with the boys.
In Australia, it got a rating of R18 plus. Whatever that means.
But wait, there's more. If you buy your ticket now for the low, low price of Billy Mays here for the Australian movie rating system.
In the Netherlands, it got a 16.
Dang.
Apparently, that's a common score because, like, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, South Africa, South Korea, Switzerland
I wonder if that's their R. It's just
must
16
be
and not 18.
16. Ireland, it got a 16. A re-rating? So, like, was it rated something lower and then it got rated different?
Oh, I'm sure.
Iceland, it got a 16. Sorry, I got distracted. But yes. But yeah, so there you go. So check it out for yourself. Let us know what you think. You can reach out to us, email. They didn't ask us at gmail.com. You can also reach out to us on our Twitter page, TDAU_pod. You can follow John, J Mueller 8332. For those watching, it's down below him.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's the nerd is_in. We'd love to hear from you and hear your thoughts. And I'm not even sure what we have up next. I haven't looked. I know we got Ant-Man and the Wasp coming up next month.
After that, yeah. Let me.
Um,
Oh, this is gonna be. It's gonna be so bright. I hate this. Oh no. I think we did a.
Close your eyes, Marion. Close your eyes. Don't look.
No, we do still have February 6th unaccounted for.
Oh boy.
So maybe Glass Onion. Maybe I don't know.
But we'll keep you updated on what we do next. But so you will. This is a bonus episode, so you'll actually hear from us again very soon.
Woo!
In 1 week.
One
So
week.
we will see you then. But until then, nerd out.